Hello, everyone. I hope that you're well. Sorry for the bit of a pause. It's just been super busy since I am one of the English chairs and take care of interviewing and scheduling. I just had so much to do, and I feel like I want to go to sleep for, I don't know, 1,000 years to rest. And classes start on Monday. So this weekend, I am finishing up my syllabi. But I wanted to talk today a little bit about diversity and inclusion in the philosophy class concerning like readings that we can encounter. And so I actually presented to the philosophy department at my college last night. A little bit of, let's see if you can see it here. All right. Carlos Alberto Sanchez is the Mexican philosophy for the 21st century. He also, so this is just his book, and he talks a little bit about what Mexican philosophy is and isn't. For instance, he talks about like the sort of authoritative standard of philosophy, or like maybe traditional assumptions of philosophy, that it has to be universal and timeless. And he says that specifically Mexican philosophy is embodied and localized and like I guess historical. It's like, how do I say that? Or I guess, and there's a commitment to, this is my handout, a commitment to place. And so a lot of times when we're thinking about, well, expanding the canon and who do we count, even like from the past, like maybe writers or theorists who maybe are no longer living, but we are reconsidering like including them in like our philosophy classes. Maybe they didn't call themselves a philosopher, they weren't called a philosopher, but then what are we to say that they count? What standard are we sort of applying to those writers, those theorists, or maybe even writers who are contemporary but are usually designated as like cultural theorists because they are not, they're commenting on a very specific time, a very specific people, etc. And so I really like how Dr. Sanchez kind of looks at philosophy as a field of study in general, and kind of suggests that we redefine what it means. But so he says that, and Dr. Sanchez is a professor of philosophy at San José State University. And I haven't checked this journal out, but apparently he's the co-founder and editor of the Journal of Mexican Philosophy, which sounds amazing. And so the other book, so this is his book, and he has various terms or concepts that he looks at and discusses. So I'm going to share one of those today. The other book, he is an editor on, a co-editor, and I just actually bought it, so it's coming tomorrow. Mexican Philosophy in the 20th Century, Essential Readings. I'm really excited. That was published in 2017. This is 2023. And he says, the reason I focus on Mexican philosophy is because it is my responsibility to make sure that philosophy belongs to everyone. And it's really great, this sort of impetus of diversity and inclusion in our universities in various subjects and majors, because there is so much wisdom, there's so much magic, and so many just really relevant, important ideas. And you'll see with my example in a second that would benefit everyone. And he also talks about how the ideas that he's discussing in this book can be related to, I guess, more like Western classical canonical discussions and philosophers that are just already probably on the syllabi of like maybe many American professors teaching like intro to philosophy or something. So I think that his book is so compelling and well written, and I can't say enough good things about it. So I wanted to read the quote. That's what I was going to do before I sidetracked myself about this authoritative standard of philosophy. He says, debates will ensue about whether or not such a terrestrial philosophizing, so talking about a philosophy that has a commitment to place, that's localized, that's embodied, meets the authoritative standard of philosophy, a standard that demands that philosophy remain immune to the urgencies of place, time, and biography, so that it may unbiasedly pursue the sort of unqualified universality that applies to all. Universality. I was like, it's a weird pronunciation for my part, so I apologize. At all times and in all places. It is problematic when certain approaches are relegated to the realms of non-philosophy, for instance, to cultural or ethnic studies. So that's from his introduction of this book. And I really also like, I really like how he looks at philosophy, how he defines it. So he says, philosophy is thus understood as a grappling with questions that arise from the necessity to understand one's concrete existence. And I really think that's how, everyone like already thinks about philosophy. That's how my students, that's how I look at philosophy in a sense, beyond just like teaching the informational side of the history of philosophy and the concepts, etc. That we look to philosophy for answers and also just questions and motivations to inquire about knowing ourselves. And ourselves, we are always embodied and localized and timely, and the human condition in general, how to navigate this very chaotic, sometimes stressful world. So the problems posed will have to be specific to circumstance where one lives. This commitment to place, what here and elsewhere I call circumstantialism, is central to Mexican philosophy. So it kind of gives you an idea of what, it is about. I have like this hair that's, oh my God. Okay, it's all right. So the first chapter after that really great introduction talks about this term relajo, which in Spanish is a term of letting go or relaxing. Kind of like if you are on vacation or partying, you maybe have like a suspension of seriousness. This is how he puts it. This is his example. And you relax, or you kind of, there's a giving up of commitments, at least for the time. And the temporality of this term is really important, and a key to why Dr. Sanchez feels that it cannot be a concept that we apply to a behavior or a situation or an event that is truly revolutionary and transformative, especially in a positive, creative, productive, and consciously intentional way. This term he wants to use specifically for events that are spontaneous and create kind of a scene and are chaotic, usually started by one or more instigators, and sort of infect others to create sort of this massive upsetting of values and order, maybe in order to protest. And so maybe for, it could be, he opens the space for this term, it could be for a justifiable or an admirable motivation, but mostly it's unthinkingly moved. And it's always temporal, so it's always momentary. And it requires this kind of repetition of non-seriousness that keeps it kind of stuck, it seems like, in like maybe an infantile or regressed state. And so, and so Dr. Sanchez says that even though sometimes upsetting the order or the dominant values can be, really liberating, this is not how he wants to use the term. And I think the term is really helpful because sometimes we see like protests erupt or we see an insurrection happen. He gives the example of sort of the storming of the US Capitol in 2021, January 6th, as a protest to the election. And he says that the motives, as we can understand them, are kind of undefined, remain undefined and ambiguous, and just don't have like sustaining power. And it actually, even though it seems to connect intimately and maybe even powerfully certain individuals who kind of join the chaos or the uprising, it doesn't really create a sort of a healthy, sustainable community that can actually make change and sort of overturn the status quo. And of course, with all philosophical concepts and all theories and ways we're explaining it, we can disagree, which is why I think it is a really great book, and all of his concepts would be really accessible to students and generate discussion. So just to help us understand this term a little more, so he says, and this is all just quoted, he has at the top of each of his chapters, he has a paragraph with his sort of expanded, fleshed out definition of what this is. Yeah, so another thing, I guess, that another way we can look at relajo, just like the term in Spanish, is a neglectful state. So he says, relajo refers to behaviors or attitudes that bring about the suspension, inversion, or annihilation of the values or meanings, purposefulness, or rules that order or structure events, states of affairs, activities, or many other types of temporally delimited social endeavors. In an abbreviated sense, relajo refers to a suspension of seriousness when seriousness is understood as that which holds things together in certain social contexts. Relajo can thus contribute to the disintegration or breakdown of an otherwise well-ordered or peaceful event or activity by promoting interruptions, the displacements of the audience's attention, or sentiments of chaos and desmadre that turn one event into something it was not meant to be. And I looked up desmadre, and it seems to mean, if you speak Spanish, then also please add or correct to this. I mean, it seems like it can refer to chaos, but in a more nuanced way, maybe either like a state of like being cowardly or being too arrogant as well, like an extreme kind of state that's disruptive, an excess of words even. What else was there? I don't know. It's a really interesting word. I feel like I've been studying Spanish really badly for the last decade, so I don't know. I need like help or something. But that turn one event into something it was not meant to be. In this way, relajo is destructive. So I think that the challenge with maybe like this concept or idea might be that many of us are so sort of, I think, frustrated with various aspects of this human created life, concerning like maybe, the economic areas, or, the difficulty of obtaining work-life balance. And so, or even maybe the status quo about maybe that's changing, but in the past, like gender or something. And so I think there's an energy to maybe disrupt certain values that are very problematic. And so I don't think he's discounting like the essential need for that. What he's doing from my perspective is helping us understand those events, again, that I think, I said in the beginning, that seem like they're trying to fight against a problematic status quo, but they're not actually doing that in any sort of meaningful or truthful way. They're just kind of creating chaos or adding to the chaos without something that can be rooted and healthy and organically grow and align with, reason, like a true reason and rationality. And I think that that's so helpful, because that's what can be confusing, right? If we see this movement or this, so sort of like phenomenon of perspective or attitude that we can agree with in a sense, because they're fighting against what maybe like we're fighting against, like if we're seeing it as an outsider, but yet something just is off about it, or it doesn't sit right, or maybe that's not like the approach seems really destructive and not sustainable. And so I think that this is an incredibly helpful concept that we can apply to like political culture or even like social media in the comment sections. So yeah, so I mean, I guess there's more that, I mean, the chapter is so nuanced and dense. There's so much more I could say about it. But I have so much to do. My syllabi are like 70% finished. But I would say that, a question that I would throw out to you, if you understand this topic, as I have explained it very briefly, I would ask, what examples do we see in life, family, institution, workplace, classroom, political scene, media, culture, societal realms, domestic, relational realms, etc., that might be described as relajo, this sort of suspension of seriousness in a destructive way, sort of chaos that infects others to create like this mass that creates a scene and disrupts everything that there is, maybe for valid reasons, but it can't go anywhere because of the sort of mindless approach, in a sense, or the mindless sort of layers in it. So what are examples, and what solutions would mitigate or help us avoid relajo in our world? And, I think it would be important to create the space for, asking, could relajo be imagined to be liberatory, perhaps even embodying a practice of decolonization? How and why or why not? So again, Dr. Sanchez says it cannot be. That's not really how he wants to articulate the concept. So you could maybe explore, why he thinks that. But he thinks that, just to give you the answer, because of its ephemeral nature, because it's too easily displaced by other relajos. So there becomes this chaos in the scene, and then it's quickly like rebutted with another sort of chaotic scene, and it just like snowballs into major chaos without, really getting us to the point we all want to be, even if we partially agree, with the disruption. And what is the last reason is what is displaced in this instance is not replaced. So again, there's just this lack of consciousness and intentionality that would move us forward into a true new earth or new world. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And books that I have recently bought that I haven't read, so I can't really speak on too much, is this Being Black by Angel Kyodo Williams, Zen and the Art of Living with Fearlessness and Grace. I just thought this was amazing because there's a connection with religion and spirituality. But I'm going to read the back of the book. I'm so excited to get into this. In this elegant, practical book, Angel Kyodo Williams combines the universal wisdom of Buddhism with an inspirational call for self-acceptance and community empowerment. Very like high vibe sort of aspirations. Written by a woman who grew up facing the challenges that confront African Americans every day, Being Black teaches us how a warrior spirit of truth and responsibility. I also love that because I just, well, during Father's Day, I read Gillette's, I forget the other author, Warrior, King, Lover, Magician. It's not in order. And so, and I've also been reading Jung, so I'm like, my mind is thinking about archetypes. Teaches us how a warrior spirit of truth and responsibility can be developed into the foundation for real happiness and personal transformation. That's so beautiful. You know, and I think that's maybe even a solution to Dr. Sanchez's Relajo, right? Instead of giving up or moving into this kind of nihilistic sort of like sarcasm as we relate to the world, to have this warrior spirit and not give up and move forward with compassion and with conscious intentionality. So I see these being in conversation with each other. With her eloquent, hip, and honest perspective, Williams, a Zen priest, social activist, and entrepreneur, shares personal stories, time-tested teachings, and simple guidelines that invite readers of all faiths to step into the freedom of a life lived with fearlessness and grace. So, super exciting. There is also apparently a music companion CD inspired by this book. What? What? Okay. We love multimedia. Amazing. And the last book for now, at least, is this I Am Because We Are, Readings in Africana Philosophy. So this has just a wide variety of readings. I was just looking at the North America section, and there's W.E.B. Du Bois, 3 chapters or essays from him. Does race antipathy serve any good purpose? On being ashamed of oneself, an essay on race pride, the concept of race. And then there's Toni Morrison, Angela Davis, Bell Hooks, Cornel West, and then that's just the last section. So just so many. I mean, this is quite a tome. It's like 500 pages. So I'm really excited because I would like to do in my intro to philosophy class this semester. I'm teaching on campus. So that's exciting. Fighting that agoraphobia that I picked up during the pandemic. So that's a new word, not really a new word, but a new word applied to me that I recently gathered. So I'd like to do, I'm planning to do, it's already on the syllabus, to do a week of Mexican philosophy and then a week of, I don't know what you call it, Black philosophy, philosophers of color. I don't know, I have to think about it. Africana philosophy, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to use both of these books for sure. And maybe, I think it's in my office. I have Bell Hooks' All About Love, and I'm excited to revisit that book. So I think I'm going to use that as well. I don't know. If you have suggestions, let me know. I obviously can't assign too many pages to my students because they are also busy. So let's see what I can do, what I can motivate them to do. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that I didn't muddle Relajo up too much. And again, there's like so many other things to say about it, but I am going to go to the market and buy coconut water. So, and other things, I need to go to campus and print out syllabi, but then I need to finish them first. Breathe with me. Okay, I will see you, and I'm sure things are going to calm down, and I will come back on here and do like more videos, but hope you liked this one. Thanks. How do I delete it, or how do I end it? Not delete. My brain.